Alright guys, in this video we're going to be talking a little bit about the GTA Trilogy, which is releasing today. I came across a few interesting articles from Push Square. At first I thought that maybe they were exaggerating a little bit with some of these headlines, but they caught my attention nonetheless, and after reading through these articles I realized that they're not exaggerating anything at all. I'm actually quite surprised at some of the stuff that we're seeing here. There's been a conversation that popped up over the past 24 to 48 hours of people kind of asking, why isn't Rockstar really promoting this game heavily at all? They're seemingly barely talking about it, and there's just not as much marketing for it as you would have expected considering it's GTA, and some people were feeling a little bit concerned. Seems like those concerns are certainly justified after looking at some of this stuff. And I just want to say before we dive into these articles that for me personally, I was kind of thinking, maybe this is something I am going to buy. I look back at the GTA games very fondly, like most people do. I have a lot of memories playing them. And, there's a lot of nostalgia there. And I was thinking, maybe this is something I'm going to buy. But I was always a little bit hesitant. Like, I don't know, is this really going to be worth it? And I guess to cut to the chase here, I absolutely will not be buying this. I'm going to be saving my money. I do think that San Andreas Remastered is launching into Game Pass, so that's not too bad. That's pretty cool, if you're subscribed to Game Pass. And I think GTA 3 is hitting PlayStation Now next month as well. But I'm certainly not going to be paying $60 for this. So you see here the headline, GTA Trilogy's inevitable backlash is already brewing. And, again, I saw this headline and I'm like, okay, I think maybe they're exaggerating a little bit until I saw what they were actually talking about. And they have an update at the top here that says more unusual and amusing images from the GTA trilogy are beginning to emerge online. And while we're still uncertain of how representative they are of the final product, they're certainly a hoot, as they're putting it. And I looked at some of these images, man, and I'm just like, no way. There's no way this is acceptable. I mean, it's funny and it has like some entertainment value, but this person says, I'm at a loss for words. How can they get away with this? And you look at this picture, you're like, what is this? This is the remaster? What is this, right? And you scroll down further, me heading home to play GTA tonight. Obviously something's going on here with his arms. They're just not, it just doesn't look natural at all. And I don't recall the older games looking like this. Maybe they did. I feel like I can't remember, but this is just off-putting. But it doesn't stop there. One fan also spotted this shop window in Vice City, which has an incredible 3 spelling errors in it. Oh my God, dude. I mean, there's no way. There's no way they think this is acceptable to sell for $60. This is the definition of a cash grab. And if you go to the original story, they say it's the early days for the GTA trilogy, which wasn't supposed to be playable yet, but is already being shared all over the web. A lot of the early footage looks really good. GTA San Andreas in particular is incredibly detailed in its new high-resolution format, but other parts don't show quite as well. One particular point of contention is the art style employed on some of the more disposable NPCs, as illustrated in these Reddit posts embedded below. I have to disagree a little bit here. I don't think the trilogy itself looks entirely bad, but I just think it's a little bit disingenuous to make it sound like, oh man, it looks so good, when in reality it's like, people have already been doing this for years, making these games and modding these games look just way better than even this trilogy itself, right? That's my opinion anyway. I think that it's just, people are just so desperate, I think, for Rockstar to do anything with GTA outside of GTA Online that it's making this seem like more than it really is. That's just my opinion. Maybe not everybody feels that way. But you look at this, man, and it really is like, as this person says, oh my, yes, oh my, indeed, what is going on here? Who made this decision? I mean, you look at these older models and this older art style, it looks significantly better than this newly updated art style. This is ridiculous, but it just keeps going. Looks like Denise did get hurt in the fire. I mean, what is this, man? What is this? I had one hope, Rockstar. I mean, oh man, that is rough. That is rough. Old Reese still run the barbershop? Not really. I mean, what is going on here? What did they do? Who thought that this was the right thing to do? Yeah, so goes on to say, meanwhile, some have questioned Rockstar's decision to increase the draw distance as the fogging caused by technical limitations in the original not only added to the atmosphere, but also provided a vastness that's not present here. So somebody says, yikes, increasing the render distance was not a good idea. And I have to agree. Look at that. That just looks terrible. It just looks terrible. The fog that was there previously made more sense. It really did. But here's where it gets worse. Now, I just want to say before I go on to the next article that, I looked at these images. And I'm like, okay, they're not great, but maybe that's not a reason to skip the game. But then this next part that we're going to go over, not this little paragraph that I'm going to read, but the next article really did it in for me. But they end the article by saying it's worth remembering that these are cherry-picked screenshots and aren't necessarily representative of the overall project and all the work that's gone into it. Furthermore, these are not remakes like Mafia Definitive Edition and were never advertised as such. It's best to think of them as spruced up ports. See, I get what they're saying, but at the same time, it's like, but they sure will sell, these games at full price, won't they? Like, they're going to make it clear that, yeah, this is not an extensive remaster or definitive edition, but we still want full price. And, some people will defend it by saying, well, you're getting 3 games. And that's true. That's true. But I don't know, man. I still think $60 is pushing it. But here we go. This is where things, in my opinion, get egregious and where I draw the line. So GTA Trilogy's PS5 frame rate analyzed, and it ain't pretty. Now, it's worth noting that it's not just for PS5. It's pretty much on every platform. It's not running well at all. And so it says making games is really difficult, but when it comes to Rockstar's remasters of the classic PlayStation 2 Grand Theft Auto titles, you could be forgiven for expecting slick performance on Sony's supercharged PS5 console. This is, after all, a system that runs releases like Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart at a near locked 60 FPS, even with ray tracing enabled. The results for GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas are disappointing then. The game has 2 modes, performance and fidelity. The latter runs at a higher resolution, but restricts the gameplay to around 30 frames per second. We use the word around because it fluctuates, sometimes jumping as high as 35 frames per second, and other times dipping below. This is true of all 3 titles. But playing classic PS2 games on modern hardware feels wrong at 30 frames per second, so you're probably going to want to use the performance option, which targets 60 FPS, but does so badly. Look at this footage of GTA 3. It endures dips as low as 35 FPS. I mean, you got to be kidding me, man. You have to be kidding me. That's performance mode for a PlayStation 2 remaster, and it dips like 35 frames per second? You got to be kidding me. It goes on to say GTA Vice City holds its target a little better, but plummets when under duress, like during firefights. And then it says, meanwhile, it's fair to say that GTA San Andreas is the steadiest of the lot, despite also being the best looking of the trio, but it's not without its fair share of dips and judders. All of these have been analyzed with the compilation running its day 1 patch, so this is the optimized version that Rockstar deemed ready for release. We'll reiterate that we know making games is hard, but when it comes to remastered ports of classic titles, performance is key. This is nowhere near good enough, and we hope the publisher has some prompt patches prepared. See, I'm going to be a little bit more harsh than this, okay? Like, I understand, just like everybody else, that game development is hard, but this is a joke. And I don't really want to blame the devs too much, only because I have no doubt that they will be able to sort this out and they will be able to patch it. To me, this comes off as, again, like holiday cash grab. We need to push this out the door, even though it's not ready. And I'm tired of it, man. Like, I am so sick and tired of publishers thinking that, you know what? We'll just fix it when we get around to it. We just need to release it, put it out there. I know that every game ships in a somewhat unfinished state. By that I mean there's always more work to be done. It's nearly impossible to get a game absolutely perfect because game development is just completely unpredictable. But stuff like this is unforgivable and unacceptable. And I was kind of on the fence. Like, after seeing those screenshots, I'm like, this is pretty bad. Like, this literally looks like a joke. It's making me laugh, right? But I'm like, maybe that's the point. It's not supposed to be an extensive remaster. I'm like, okay, But then when I see stuff like this, that's where I draw the line. I'm like, you're not getting my money. I'm not giving Rockstar Games. I'm not giving them my money for this. Not giving Take-Two my money, because it's become pretty clear that they just don't care. They know that this is going to sell. They know that they can just bank on, hey, it's GTA definitive, trilogy here. We're going to resell it to you for full price, and we know you'll buy it because of nostalgia, because it's GTA. And I'm just not doing it, and I'm not going to tell anybody else what they should or shouldn't do. It's, your money, do what you want. But I don't know. I just think that if you were to pay full price for this, seeing how they can't even get a performance mode on a next-gen console for a PlayStation 2 remaster to run at a consistent 60 FPS, you really have to think to yourself, what kind of message are you sending a publisher when they do something like this? Like, I have no problem paying full price for games if I feel as though it's going to be worth it and it's earned my money. But in the case of this GTA trilogy, it's the opposite of that. It's not worth. It doesn't seem worth it at all to me, and they certainly did not do anything to earn my money. And so there you go. I just wanted to take some time to cover this because, I'm not trying to rain on anybody's parade or anything like that. Like, if you just want to play it for the nostalgia factor and you really don't care, then that's fine. Again, it's for each person to decide. But I'm just tired of seeing stuff like this, cash grabs that are just so, in your face. Like, at least if you're gonna try to get another $60 out of me for these games, the least you could do is make it so that performance mode actually seems like a performance mode and doesn't seem just insanely poorly optimized. You could at least make it so that these ridiculous art style changes are not that ridiculous. But here we are. Anyway, let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. Leave the video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share the video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.